This is Smart Pizza, and in today's hour-long episode, I'll show you the most dangerous and frightening ocean creatures caught on camera. You'll see deep-sea monsters, giant squids, and scary sharks. I'll tell you about which sea creatures you should stay away from during the bathing season, and show you creepy attacks on ships and divers that make your blood run cold. Sit back and relax, there'll be a lot to see. Long-snouted lancetfish. The long-snouted lancetfish is a really creepy fish. I think it's no coincidence that its name is consonant with the name of some formidable creature. But it also has another creepier name, cannibal fish. Terrible long-snouted lancetfish has been known to science for a long time, since 1741, when during the study of Kamchatka, the fish carcass was thrown on the shore. These are quite large animals. They weigh up to 8 kilograms and are about 2 meters long. Add to this a gigantic ribbed fin, looked like a dragon's backbone, a slender, flattened torso, and a wide, powerful mouth with thin teeth, and you get a very scary monster that no one would want to bump into. It's not just the appearance of the long-snouted lancetfish that's frightening, but also its incredible abilities. The long-snouted lancetfish hunts not only horizontally, but also vertically, leaving its victims no chance to escape. As for the fish's second name, it's not accidental. The long-snouted lancetfish has been seen more than once by scientists eating other long-snouted lancetfish. In general, long-snouted lancetfish is a real monster, which is not worth messing with. One of the most frightening and unusual inhabitants of the ocean is a gulper. It has a tiny skull and a huge mouth with a pelican-like sac. As for the body of the gulper, it resembles that of an eel. It has no fins and scales, and its body color is dark brown. Also, the gulper has no branchiostegal rays, swim bladder, or ribs. Gulpers are poor swimmers, and their bodies are flabby to the touch. These fish are believed to die immediately after spawning. In the past, gulpers were classified as a separate order, but recent studies have shown that they're closely related to eels. By the way, scientists believe that gulpers are one of the oldest inhabitants of the ocean, which in the course of evolution have changed the appearance and adapted to life at a great depth of 2 to 5 kilometers, because there's little food at such depths. These animals may not eat for months, but if they get food, they swallow it, or they're afraid of water. So many people scare these arthropods with liquid. But there are spiders that are not only not afraid of water, but also live in it. I'm talking about sea spiders. The sea spider can safely claim to be one of the most unusual and frightening animals in the entire planet. They outrun almost any of their land congeners because their size often exceeds the size of ordinary spiders. Leg's length of some species of sea spiders can be 50 centimeters. By the way, for sea spiders, such long legs are necessary not only to move quickly across the seabed, but also receive necessary oxygen through the holes in their legs. Sea spiders are mainly predators. They're interested in invertebrates, mollusks, small crustaceans, and Holothuria. Their most favorite delicacies are sea anemones. The animals developed an interesting mechanism used for hunting. Their claws grip a prey, and then the spider crushes the caught prey. Sea spiders do not pose a threat to humans because they live deep enough. Some species even live at a depth of 7 kilometers. This must be what a real monster should look like. No wonder this fish is often listed as one of the creepiest around the world. The small tail, small torso, huge head, and of course a whole bunch of fangs coupled with crazy eyes make this predatory fish really scary. But the body features make the common fangtooth even scarier. When it closes its jaw, its lower pair of teeth are placed in special sheaths on either side of its brain so as to not cut it. From the photos, which show only the common fangtooth, it may seem that this monster is huge, but this isn't the case. It's only 18 centimeters long and weighs just over 100 grams. But even this is quite enough to scare the inhabitants of the ocean. The common fangtooth does not mind eating crustaceans, small fish, and squid. The only consolation is that this fish lives very deep. The common fangtooth lives at depths of 500 to 5,000 meters, so you will not come face to face with it, while Swimmer is an even creepier creature than the common fang tooth. It's more terrifying. Sometimes scientists call this creature a sea devil. Not without reason, it was given such a telling name, because in opinion of many people, the angler really looks as if it rose to us from hell. And many experts unanimously recognize it as the most frightening and creepiest creature, not only in the ocean, but also in the world as a whole. The ocean's most terrifying predator is able to walk on the bottom using its small fins. To hunt, it uses a fishing rod, which serves as bait. The angler is capable of remaining motionless for long periods of time, waiting for prey. They're surprisingly fast predators. It takes them less than a second to grab their prey with their huge jaws. Scientists have calculated that anglers can eat a fish in 0.06 seconds. To find this out, they even needed to use high-speed cameras. What's more, the angler has the unusual ability to enlarge its mouth cavity up to 12 times, so it often eats fish that outnumber it in size. Fortunately, it does not eat humans. Man's too big for the angler. Plus, anglers live at great depths, where an ordinary swimmer does not dragonfish. This fish is a kind of joker of the sea animal world. It has the same sinister smile as the famous supervillain, and the fish itself is just as frightening and dangerous as the Joker. At least it's frightening to other ocean dwellers. The size of the deep-sea dragonfish does not match its ferocity. These predators do not reach more than 15 centimeters in length, but can eat prey 2 or even 3 times their size. Deep-sea dragonfish live in tropical zones of the ocean at a depth of 2,000 meters. This monster is recognized by its large head and mouth, which is equipped with many sharp, transparent teeth. Why are the predator's teeth transparent? Scientists believe that this is how nature made the grin of the monster less visible to their victims. Cool, isn't it? Speaking of victims, like the angler, the deep-sea dragonfish has its own bait for prey, which is a long whisker with a photophore on the end. The deep-sea dragonfish uses the same method of hunting as the angler. Using the photophore, the predator lures the prey to the closest possible distance, then bites at it with a sharp-pointed pen. It's worth talking about another creature with a hellish name. I'm talking about the vampire squid, or vampire squid from hell. This is another creepy creature in this episode. In many ways, the eyes make this squid really creepy. If the underwater kingdom held a contest for the biggest eyes, the winner would be the vampire squid. With an average body length of 30 centimeters, the diameter of its eyes reaches 2.5 centimeters, making them the largest in proportion to the size of the body among all animals. Another surprising feature of the vampire squid from hell is the ability to change color. These frightening creatures can be bright red or ghostly blue. Scary Monster got its mystical name because of this feature. And in general, the vampire squid is not only one of the most terrifying, but also one of the most unusual inhabitants of the sea. It combines the features of a squid and an octopus. It has a squid-like shape and structure of the body, and its tentacles look like an octopus ones. This monster lives at great depths, from 400 to 1,000 meters, from the surface of the water. This makes it a record breaker. Among all mollusks, it's the deepest. Despite its harsh habitat, the creepy vampire squid has managed to adapt to it perfectly. Vampire squid is not the creepiest squid living in the depths of the ocean. Modern science has proven that ancient legends do not lie. The ocean is indeed inhabited by giant squids and octopuses, reaching unreal sizes. But what it hasn't officially proved is the existence of the Kraken. Further, you'll find out if this monster really exists. A mixture of octopus and squid of incredible size, strong enough to tear ships apart with its tentacles. This is how this creature has been described in many parts of the world. The inhabitants of the northern coast of Japan call it a korikamui, and believe that this monster lived on the Lake of Hokkaido. The inhabitants of Finland believe that the Kraken had not only tentacles but also wings, and called the area where it can be met as Wicked Land. The name of the creature also appeared in Norse mythology, but it was accompanied by a very clear description. If you believe the descriptions of the ancients, it was the largest living creature in the world. The wavelength of tentacles Kraken reached several tens of meters, and the mouth was so huge that it could swallow several ships at once. The monster hunted in the seas between Norway, Greenland, and Iceland. The first documentary mention of the monster appeared in the chronicles in the 13th century, although the date of the first meeting between a man and the Kraken can be considered 1180s. It sounds unbelievable, but already in the 18th century, the kraken as a living creature was officially recognized by scientists. The famous Swedish biologist Carl Linnaeus included it in his work Systema Naturae, published in 1735, describing it as a kind of cephalopod. Later, the author repented on his naivete, and in the new editions of Systema Naturae, the kraken was no longer present, but the recognition remained. Later, a priest named Eric Pontoppidan also officially recognized the kraken. In his writings, he cited as evidence a case happened in 1680 when a creature very similar to the kraken was washed up on the coast of Norway. Modern scientists no longer believe in the existence of the kraken as a monster. However, there's no doubt that the ancient legends must have been based on something. So what creature became the prototype of the legendary monster? Perhaps it was a giant Pacific octopus, the largest octopus on the planet, which can be found in the cold northern waters. But despite the fact that this octopus can have a tentacle span of up to 10 meters, it's still not creepy enough to become a sea monster is the name given to a large, unidentified creature, or rather its carcass that washed up on the coast of the United States near the town of St. Augustine, Florida in 1896. This is one of the first occurrences of the fabulous monster, which has been documented and subsequently explained. At first, scientists speculated that the carcass might actually be the remains of a giant squid, but they later changed their minds and wrote that the carcass belonged to a giant octopus. By February of the following year, nearly 2 months after the discovery of the new species, the creature was given the designation giant octopus. Tissue fragments were preserved in a scientific laboratory where they safely survived for more than 100 years. In 2004, thanks to the progress made in the field of electron microscopy and biochemical analysis, it was possible to study the samples in more detail. This time, it was discovered that the preserved masses of carcass were pure collagen, a structural protein found in the skin. Scientists concluded that this mass was the remains of whale skin. Subsequent analysis confirmed that it was indeed the flesh of a whale, a sperm whale to be more precise. Only 64 years later, this St. Augustine carcass would be called a globster, a term that began to refer to any unidentified sea monster. It turns out that carcasses resembling the St. Augustine monster have been found and continue to be found on shores all over the world. The term globster itself was coined by British-American cryptozoologist Ivan Sanderson in 1960. He himself first used the word to describe another unidentified find, the Tasmanian globster. And what about squids? They first appeared in the writings of the ancient Greeks, but they were hardly ever mentioned between antiquity and modern times. To this day, the giant squid remains the most enigmatic animal in the ocean, if not the entire world. Scientists have managed to capture it in its natural habitat only a few times, even though more than 150 years have passed since they first documented the new species. Most of the information about these giant creatures, which can grow up to 12 to 14 meters in length and live in a world devoid of sunlight, comes from discovering their carcasses floating in the ocean or found in the belly of sperm whales. Dwelling at depths of 200 to 1,000 meters, giant squids inhabit the deepest and darkest places in the world. Here's what's known about the mysterious animal. Do you believe in the existence of the kraken? Let me know in the comments. Next, I'll show you some more dangerous sea creatures. As if we didn't have enough snakes on land, so nature decided to throw some reptiles into the water. There's no escape from those dodgy creatures. Sea snakes are very dangerous creatures that tend to live in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. All sea snakes are venomous to one degree or another, but one of them is extremely venomous. It's the Du Bois sea snake, which is considered the third most venomous snake in the world. It swims in the seas of Indonesia and Malaysia, as well as off the coast of Australia. The venom of this snake affects the respiratory center, so the victim can die of asphyxiation. These reptiles are not aggressive, but they are difficult to see underwater. So a person stepping on the snake can get a dose of deadly venom in return. By the way, sea snakes can even be more dangerous on land than in water. Inexperienced fishermen who set nets foolishly pull out these snakes with their bare hands, getting painful bites. Although sea snake bites are not often fatal, you should immediately consult a doctor after an attack. Corals can pose a great danger. Surprised? In the case of Millepora, this is absolutely true. They're known as fire corals. Fire corals can be found in the Indian, Pacific, and Atlantic Oceans. They look like ordinary corals or even seaweed, so an inexperienced swimmer would never guess what a danger they actually pose. Meanwhile, fire corals are extremely dangerous. The name says it all. These are extremely venomous cnidaria, so the slightest touch can cause a severe burn. The fact that the surface of the coral is covered with very small, sensitive tentacles that respond to pressure and activate the exploding cells with the strongest toxins. The fire coral's venom is very powerful. People who have had the misfortune to come into contact with fire corals said they felt as if they'd received a burn from a red-hot metal. The burn gradually develops into an ulcer, and when the wound heals, it leaves a visible scar. And while fire coral burns are not fatal, they can cause painful shock and unconsciousness. You can understand what this can do at great depths. What distinguishes saltwater crocodiles from common crocodiles is that they can safely live in ocean water, and the fact that these monsters are many times more dangerous than common crocodiles. Saltwater crocodiles are the largest terrestrial predators on the entire planet. They regularly grow up to 5.2 and more meters in length, and in some cases can reach as much as 7 meters in length. On average, these toothy creatures weigh several hundred kilograms, but in some cases, their weight can exceed a ton. It would be okay if saltwater crocodiles were known only for their impressive size, but no. They're also famous for their fierce aggression towards all living things and their insane bite force. According to scientists, only large dinosaurs could compete with saltwater crocodiles in terms of jaw strength. Adult saltwater crocodiles can safely spend several months in the sea without any visible harm to themselves. Some saltwater crocodiles have even been found in water twice as salty as normal seawater. A person swimming into the water where a saltwater crocodile is resting is very likely to become a victim of this monster. For this reason, these crocodiles are often deliberately caught to secure certain areas. Most dangerous creatures, we hardly imagine shells or snails, right? Take a look at them. What kind of danger could these lovely snails pose? But it's not that simple. Meet cone snails, a family of beautiful but very, very venomous and predatory gastropod mollusks. Cone snails are the case of nature cruelly deceiving us. Their bright coloration, although attractive, suggests that these creatures are extremely venomous. Cone snails are equipped with a harpoon, which stings their victims, and they can do it both in the immediate vicinity of the victim and from a fairly long distance. From a long distance, they shoot a harpoon so strong that it can even pierce the protective suit of a diver. And if the diver's still lucky enough to avoid the shot, he or she can accidentally step on the cone snail, laying on the seabed, and get stung. The sting of this beautiful snail is extremely dangerous. Their venom acts very quickly, so in most cases, death can occur in a matter of minutes. Death occurs in 30 to 50% of cases. In other cases, the sting of the beautiful snail can cause severe pain, nausea, swelling, paralysis, and even blindness. It's believed that there's no antidote for cone snail sting, so the venom has to be eliminated from the body by bloodfish. Another beautiful animal in this episode is box jellyfish, pretty large creature with a graceful dome, long tentacles that hover beautifully in the water, and a mild coloration. It's hard to believe that such a charming creature is capable of causing much harm. Probably the most it can do is sting unpleasantly, just like other jellyfish, right? Actually, no. Box jellyfish are very dangerous, venomous sea creatures. If such a jellyfish stings a person, it could kill them. As scientists have found out, contact with the tentacles of this creature opens the human's body cells, resulting in a leakage of potassium, which leads to cardiovascular collapse. Even in the best case, contact with a box jellyfish will end in severe pain, so don't underestimate these creatures. Even the most experienced divers and swimmers take them seriously and wear protective suits before diving into the habitat of these monsters. And the authorities of some countries, for example Australia, even stretch out special nets in the water, which prevents box jellyfish to swim in the tourist area. This is what the most dangerous creature in the ocean looks like. It's the stonefish. It doesn't look very nice, but its appearance is tolerable. It's not huge in size and doesn't boast insanely sharp teeth, but at the same time it can finish off almost anyone who touches it. Because the stonefish is the most venomous, and with it, the most dangerous fish in the whole world. The essence of the fish lies in its name. It's not called the stonefish by accident. The creature dwells on the seabed and perfectly disguises itself as a rock. It can be clearly seen from the photos. The fish isn't aggressive, it just lies on the seabed and rests. But only one step on the fish is enough for bad things to happen. On the dorsal fin of the fish, there are venomous, sharp, and tough spines that can plunge into the foot of an inattentive person. The more pressure is put on the fish, the more venom it injects. If a person steps on the stonefish slightly, the best case will be shock, paralysis, or tissue necrosis. If a person steps on the fish with all his might, then the lethal outcome will be almost guaranteed. The stonefish live in shallow waters of the Pacific and Indian Oceans, so remember this if you find yourself in these parts of the world. The lined surgeonfish is very beautiful. The sides of its body are brightly colored with blue and yellow stripes. Its belly is pure blue, and its dorsal fin is yellow or orange. It's a small fish that reaches 40 centimeters in length and lives in the Pacific and Indian Oceans, where it complements the already colorful fauna. Upon encountering it, many people will want to swim closer to touch this fish or even pick it up. Such an idea should be forgotten forever. The lined surgeonfish, though beautiful, is extremely dangerous. The danger can be understood from the fish's name. This creature does not need scalpels to be a surgeon, because there are spines at the tips of its tail that are as sharp as the best scalpels in the world. A small touch will result in instant cuts, and if you take the lined surgeonfish in your hands, you'll get very serious injuries. In addition, its spines are venomous, so cuts are not the worst thing that can happen to you. Many people know the feeling when you're standing in the water and suddenly something touches your foot. Could be algae, could be a harmless fish, or it could be a moray eel. Its body is serpentine, so such a touch will be similar to the sensation as if underwater you've been touched with a belt. If you can discern a moray eel and realize that it swam past you, it's better to get out of the water immediately. Usually these fish with bare skin and no scales are wary of humans, but a swimmer can get into their habitat, and then moray eels will defend themselves. Fortunately, moray eels are not venomous, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous. First, these creepy fish have a painful bite. Secondly, the mouth of a moray eel contains many bacteria, which will immediately enter the wound after the bite. This in itself is unpleasant, and given the fact that moray eels usually bite several times in a row, these fish become even more unpleasant and creepier in our eyes. Well, if all these facts aren't enough for you, then you should know that moray eels are crazy creatures which sometimes are able to fight even a shark. I think you should stay away from such a crazy fish. Quite dangerous creatures in their own right. No one would want to step on such a thorn in the sea, right? But there are especially dangerous creatures among these echinoderms. One of them is flower urchin, which is considered by many to be the most dangerous sea urchin in the world. It's extremely dangerous because of its powerful venom, which contains two very potent toxins. If a person steps on a flower urchin, it releases the venom, which causes smooth muscle spasms, convulsions, anaphylactic shock, and death. The venom comes through the pedicellari, which are flower-like structures. The size of these pedicellari is directly related to the effectiveness of the venom. Flower urchin has been responsible for many swimmer fatalities, so if you see this echinoderm, you should get out of the water, or at the very least get a sea creature that should not be stepped on. There is at least one more powerful and more deadly. Stay tuned to see it, as well as other sea creatures to stay away from. Let's move on. Blue-ringed octopus. For me, the blue-ringed octopus is one of the most beautiful of all the octopuses in the world. They have a bright and interesting pattern, cool tentacles, and the octopus itself looks quite interesting. Look at them from the side as long as you want. These creatures are very smart, so they can do all sorts of incredible tricks. But you should never swim close to the blue-ringed octopus. All octopuses are venomous, and the venom of the blue-ringed octopus is particularly powerful and dangerous. This mollusk will not attack a man for no special reason, but when feeling in danger or the need to defend themselves, it clings to the offender and bites them. And it can bite in different ways, either very painfully or inconspicuously. One way or another, the victim will be paralyzed and irreversible consequences will begin to occur in their body. If the victim isn't given first aid, death will be inevitable. The blue-ringed octopus, despite its small size, contains such an amount of venom, which is enough to finish off almost 30 people at once in a few minutes. I don't know about you, but I would definitely run from such a beautiful monster to the shore. Stingrays are very interesting creatures. It's not every day you see this flat sea creature, right? It makes you want to swim closer to it when you see it in the depths of the sea. But you shouldn't do this. It's better to move away from the stingray, and if possible, go to shore. Stingrays can be recognized by the flat, wide body and a thin tail, on the end of which is a spine. You need to be aware of this spine because it's venomous. It's also very sharp. Sensing the danger, stingray will defend itself and use all its strength to plunge the spine as deeply as possible into the enemy. The penetration power of the spine is amazing. In some cases, it can penetrate even thick leather shoes, let alone a swimmer entering the water wearing only swim trunks or a bathing suit. In case the spine hits the torso, and especially the heart, it will be almost impossible to survive. So it's better to keep away from these tailed creatures at a respectful distance. And here's another beautiful sea creature with an unusual name, the red lionfish. It seems that this is what an ideal fish should look like. Pleasant appearance, no giant teeth sticking out of the mouth, bright color, and amazing fins. That's right, but this fish is far from perfect. On the contrary, it's one of the most dangerous fish in the world. It poses a threat both to sea creatures and humans. It's in the incredibly beautiful fins of the fish that lies its main danger. Venomous needles are hidden beneath them. As a vicious predator, the red lionfish does not hesitate to use these needles and ruthlessly pierce its aggressors. The painful prick is accompanied by deterioration, and in some cases the victim may be paralyzed, after which the victim will never rise to the surface again. Unlike many other sea creatures from this episode, the red lionfish has an aggressive behavior, so if you see it, go ashore immediately and warn others of the threat. In general, whales are not dangerous for humans. The humpback whale can also be called a friendly sea creature. Nevertheless, it stands out among other whales because sometimes it's aggressive. First, humpback whale's aggression can be directed at vessels approaching groups of these creatures. They can jump out near ships and then plunge into the sea, creating a powerful wave, similar to a little tsunami. In groups, humpback whales are more aggressive than solitary individuals, so together they can cause trouble for sailors. Second, humpback whales can swallow a swimmer. However, this happens very rarely. Just recently, in early June this year, there was such an incident when the humpback whale swallowed 56-year-old Trist and spit out the man lodged in its mouth. Packard estimates he spent about 30 to 40 creepy seconds inside the giant. Humpback whales are not as dangerous creatures as the others in this episode, but still, if you see a humpback whale in the sea, you should get ashore or get out of sharks. First of all, we think of the notorious great white sharks. However, many experts believe that another shark is much more dangerous, the tiger shark, which is considered the most dangerous shark species for humans. On average, the body length of this species reaches 5.5 meters, but according to some reports, there are larger individuals with a length of up to 7 and even 9 meters. These creatures weigh about 500 to 600 kilograms. The tiger shark is known for its aggression and incredible voraciousness. Being a predator, the tiger shark is not much worried about what it would like to eat today. It eats crustaceans, fish, sea snakes, marine mammals, turtles, cephalopods, and even birds. But sometimes the tiger shark's dinner can be a human. To protect humans from attacks, some countries even shoot tiger sharks, which have gained an unfortunate reputation of man-eating animals. As for the voracity, a very interesting feature of this species is its ability to eat incredible things and turn the stomach inside out to remove undigested food residues. The great white shark can't do that. Speaking about dangerous sharks, it immediately begs the question, are megalodons really completely extinct? Or have a few individuals managed to survive to this day? While scientists and theorists are still guessing, more and more videos and photos are appearing in the internet that can prove that megalodons are alive and real. Stay tuned as I show you the megalodons that were caught on camera. Giant. Japanese researchers decided to conduct a daring experiment in a bay near the Mariana Trench, the deepest place in the world ocean. They decided to lower a large container of bait onto the ocean floor and just to wait. Scientists were curious to see which animal would be the first to respond to the enticing smell of food. The bait first attracted a pack of deep-sea sharks, but then something happened that left the researchers speechless. Suddenly, the shark scattered, and a giant shark of unbelievable size approached on the screens. It swam up precisely to the prey, ignoring the cameras and equipment at a depth of 1.5 kilometers. According to eyewitnesses, the body of the sea Goliath was more than 60 meters long. What could it be? Scientists have not found a clear answer. They got only guesses and speculate. In Baja Bay, not far from the California coast, for many years now, there's been a mysterious, violent, and extremely aggressive creature that local fishermen have nicknamed the Black Demon. The shark is described as resembling a great white shark with a black color. According to various sources, the Black Demon reaches from 12 to 18 meters in length, and that's even bigger than a school bus. Of course, most people believe that the stories about the Black Demon are just fiction. The most detailed evidence is usually blamed by skeptics on whale sharks, which are known for being larger than great white sharks, reaching a length of 12 meters and weighing several dozens of tons. However, it's very problematic to confuse the Black Demon with a whale shark because the Black Demon's aggressive behavior. This behavior is not typical for large whale sharks, which are considered peaceful creatures and feed on plankton. Moreover, juvenile whale sharks can even allow divers to play with them. Is it possible to confuse such a shark with a bloodthirsty black demon? The locals say that it's impossible. The legends about the demon refer to a very ancient and aggressive animal. Could it be Megalodon? In April 2016, a curious video was uploaded on the YouTube channel of a Canadian user. According to the channel's author, it was filmed back in 2014. The guy also claims that he actually encountered a real megalodon off the coast of Canada. Well, the video does indeed immediately show a huge shark. The shark never appears on the surface, so we can't reliably determine the species. Many of those who watched the video advised the author not to be afraid. A species known as the basking shark could have swam past him. Basking sharks, despite their creepy appearance and enormous size, feed exclusively on plankton. However, basking sharks have not been seen off the coast of British Columbia for a long time. In July 2019, a team of researchers from California decided to conduct a unique experiment. The submarine they lowered to the bottom of the ocean had to place a bug on one of the big bottom sharks. However, when the scientists saw which shark approached their bait, they were amazed. It was not a megalodon, but the blunt-nosed six-gill shark, already known to scientists. The size of this shark impressed the researchers. Previously, marine biologists denied that the bottom sharks can reach such impressive size. It turns out that those who argue that huge sharks cannot be found at great depths and near the bottom were also wrong, weren't they? Does this mean that Megalodon can still live somewhere out there, in the darkness? In a recent documentary about megalodons, viewers were presented with this video. It was filmed in the Pacific Ocean during the installation of equipment for an oil platform. Usually, large companies do not spare money and prefer to watch every stage of such works through special deep-water cameras. But this time they caught not only robots, see the huge fins? Given the size of the robot and the approximate distance between the camera and the owner of the fins, it turns out that the shark must be at least 10 meters long. Could it be Megalodon? It's possible, because these ancient sharks were about 10 to 15 meters. What can be a better proof of the existence of a living creature than a clear and vivid picture of it? Unfortunately, in the age of high technology, such evidence is rarely taken for granted anymore. When this picture, caught by Google Earth, first appeared on the internet, everyone became curious, especially considering that the ancient predator was found near one of the most popular tourist islands in the Bahamas. I think tourists vacationing in the Bahamas should be more careful. In 2014, several nations received very contradictory and strange readings from their space satellites. If space observers are to be believed, giant living creatures were spotted off the coast of Papua New Guinea. Scientists could not believe their eyes. Judging by the way the mysterious objects were moving, it was obvious that these were living creatures. But their size was so enormous that the credibility of the finds raised doubts. Mysterious giants were similar to sharks in body shape, but at the same time, they were several times bigger. If an adult individual of a great white shark reaches 5 or 6 meters in length, then here we're talking about a body length of over 16 meters. The version with whales also falls away. The creature observed prefer to hide deep underwater, which cetaceans do not do. Brazil. This video was taken by an onboard camera of the Brazilian rescue team in November 2012. It's one of the most unobvious and yet convincing evidence of the Megalodon existence in this episode. When the video first appeared on the internet, no one noticed anything suspicious about it. Fascinated by the coordinated work of the rescuers, people hardly looked at the surface of the ocean. They didn't know what they were missing. If you rewind to the beginning of the video and look closely at the top right corner, you can easily notice that there is a huge, dark silhouette moving under the water next to the boat. According to estimates of users who have reviewed this footage many times, the body of the creature must be at least 18 meters long. Could it be the mysterious Megalodon? Dead or alive? In the internet, you can find a lot of information that the official science failed miserably, and that, in fact, ancient life forms have survived to this day, which scientists do not notice. Some conspiracy-minded authors even claim that ichthyologists hide the truth from us on purpose. For the uninitiated people, the theory of Megalodon survival does not sound so silly. After all, there could hypothetically be a predator that, in the course of evolution, learned to behave cautiously and hide somewhere in the depths of the world ocean, periodically surfacing for prey, right? Could it be that real megalodons still roam the world oceans? As far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't completely dismiss this version, no matter how crazy it may sound. At the same time, so far we don't have the most reliable, absolute proof that megalodons are still alive. Do you believe in the existence of megalodons? Share your thoughts in the comments. Next, I'll show you unique footage of sea monsters attacking ships, boats, and yachts. There'll be a lot of interesting stuff. Killer whales, or orcas, are extremely dangerous creatures. They're some of the most powerful and intelligent marine predators, so the inhabitants of the seas and oceans have a hard time. But for humans, orcas are safe. In history, there were no documented cases of killer whale attacks on humans. However, there were several cases of killer whale attacks on ships and yachts. One of such attacks occurred most recently in June of last year. The incident took place in the Strait of Gibraltar. It would be okay if only one orca attacked, but there are about 30 of them. Several dozen fierce predators attacked the British yacht 40 kilometers from the Spanish coast. The monsters rushed onto the rudder of the yacht and turned the ship around. The sailors panicked, but managed to take the right decision. They turned off the electrical equipment, lowered the sails, and waited until the predators calmed down. They were lucky. The first attack of killer whales on people in the wild did not take place, but the yacht was damaged. Killer whales sailed away, having bitten off a big piece of the rudder. Well, don't think that only killer whales are dangerous among cetaceans. As practice shows, not only killer whales attack ships, but also other cetacean species. For example, the southern right whale. In 2010, one of these whales attacked a boat of photo seekers. Jumping out of the water, the 10-meter-long monster landed on the boat of Paloma Werner and her partner Ralph, destroyed the mast, and slipped back under the water. Fortunately, that was the end of the attack. Paloma and Ralph were lucky; they weren't hurt. The ship, on the other hand, was less fortunate. As in the previous case with the orcas, the whale caused considerable damage, which was estimated at $10,000. By the way, as for the attack, it's not necessary to lump it under general umbrella with the attack of orcas. Orcas are predators by nature, so their motive is clear. But the southern right whale is simply a weak-sighted creature. It moves through the ocean relying mostly on sound, so perhaps the sharp sound of a boat caught its attention and it jumped out of the water in fear. In addition to southern right whales, humpback whales are often involved in such incidents. They are, by the way, considered to be some of the most angry and aggressive whales in the world. Sometimes they can literally go on a rampage and swoop down on people. One such episode was filmed in 2015. Two tourists were watching whales swimming around their kayaks when suddenly a humpback whale jumped out of the water, flew next to their kayak, and landed right next to it. That would have been okay, but when a 40-ton giant falls next to you, it's not likely to turn out well. Nevertheless, the guys were lucky. When the whale landed, the tourists were thrown out of the kayak and pulled under the water. Fortunately, the tourists weren't hurt, but their kayak was left with a small dent. The experience was enough to last them a lifetime, as they said the moment the humpback whale fell was like a huge building collapsing next to them. giant squid. In 2003, French sailors taking part in the circumnavigation of the world race for the Jules Verne Trophy encountered a giant squid. Yachtsman Olivier de Carosson said that the 8-meter sea creature attacked their yacht and clung to the stern shortly after the team left Brittany. The giant squid used all its strength to pull the boat out to sea. Its tentacles blocked the rudder of the yacht, so the crew couldn't gain any momentum. Isn't that the Kraken? The legendary creature acted exactly the same way. Fortunately, the plot of the legend did not repeat itself. The squid didn't sink the yacht. Sometime later, the monster loosened its grip, unhooked itself from the yacht, and sailed away into the depths of the ocean. The great white shark is one of the most famous sea monsters around the world. This shark is feared by sailors, fishermen, and swimmers alike. And if the situation with swimmers is understandable, why would sailors and fishermen be afraid of these predators? Because sometimes these sharks attack ships, yachts, and boats. That was the experience of a 73-year-old fisherman named Terry Selwood. In 2017, a great white shark nearly 3 meters long and weighing 200 kilograms jumped into the motorboat the fisherman was in. While jumping out, the shark struck Terry with its pectoral fin, injuring him. Needless to say, the fisherman was frightened and panicked. The shark, though on board, was still a threat, so Terry had to climb into the thole board in the bow and contact the rescuers. Fortunately, they soon arrived. The fisherman was taken off the boat, brought to shore, and given first aid. The shark died on Terry's boat. Okay, everything is clear with the shark jumping out of the water, but what about more obvious attack? There's one in this episode. A couple of years ago, a fisherman, Aaron Pekarsky, filmed a great white shark attacking his boat with other people on it. The footage, taken in the Spencer Gulf, South Australia, shows the 4-meter-long shark circling around the boat, and then it appears several times on the surface of the water and tries to bite the boat. Eyewitnesses to the attack maintained a calm that occasionally touched on insanity. Pekarsky even lowered his camera under the water with the words, "Let's take a look at its size." Fortunately, the great white shark didn't bite Aaron's hand. It circled near the boat for a few more seconds and soon swam. A white shark, although dangerous, is not as aggressive as the lesser-known ocean predator, the mako shark. It's a large and fast predator of the white shark's family, which is famous for its mad temper and poses a great threat to humans. Even when you're on a boat, you cannot be 100% calm because sometimes these sharks attack ships. Such an incident happened in 2017 near New York City. A fishing charter boat was transporting tourists to a fish-rich spot. The first fish arrived on the boat itself. An enraged mako shark attacked the boat by jumping aboard, but luckily got stuck in the railings. Footage shows the dangerous predator shaking its tail, biting the railings, and slamming against the side in a desperate attempt to free itself. In the end, the furious monster was helped by the ship's crew. The fishermen tied a rope around one of the shark's fins and turned it with its face toward the water. As a result, they were able to free the predator and lower it back into the water. Needlefish. The year 2020 started badly for Muhammad Abdul. The 16-year-old boy from Indonesia went night fishing with his friend Sardi. Sardi's boat sailed first with Muhammad behind it. About 500 meters from the beach, Sardi turned on a flashlight when suddenly a needlefish jumped out of the water. Apparently it wanted to attack the boat, but ended up attacking Muhammad, seriously injuring him in the neck. It was a miracle that the boys were able to swim back to the shore while the 75-centimeter-long needlefish was in Muhammad. Muhammad's father then took him to the hospital, where doctors cut the fish off. The boys subsequently had to go to another hospital to have surgery. 5 specialists were involved at once, as Muhammad's situation was complicated. But fortunately, all ended well. The boy recovered quickly and said that the incident with the fish did not weaken his love for fishing. He said he would now be more careful and not shine flashlights at night, so as to not provoke needlefish. I'll show you the most frightening diver moments and cases caught on camera. Lots of fish. If being in the sea, you see that a huge number of small fish or plankton suddenly appear in front of you, it could mean that a huge whale is swimming nearby. In such a situation, it's better to swim away to give the giant some space. In this footage, we see just such a moment. Within seconds, a mini sea of small creatures formed around the diver, and a couple of moments later, a huge whale emerged from the water and swallowed them. Fortunately, it didn't hit the diver, although it was only a few meters away. Of course, this is not as scary as a multi-ton giant landing near a kayak or an orca attack, but I'm sure the diver was pretty freaked out. with a weapon. When going underwater, it's always better to take some kind of weapon with you, because you never know what creature might see you underwater. It can be a harmless fish or a very dangerous shark. This guy had the second option. As he was diving, he saw a ravenous shark swimming right at him. Luckily, he had a harpoon with him, but it didn't guarantee his safety. You can hear in the original video that the guy couldn't keep his cool and started screaming right under the water. He was lucky the shark didn't move on him and swam away. He seemed to be able to relax and continue filming, but then the shark decided to go for another round and swam up to the diver again. This time, the diver acted more bravely and even tried to poke the shark with a harpoon to chase it away. The shark took the hint and didn't attack. It's good that everything turned out all right, but it's scary to imagine what would have happened if the diver had forgotten the harpoon on shore, or if the shark had been in a bad mood. Dangerous surfing. It's creepy when you see a shark in front of you, but it's probably even creepier when you don't even realize there's a shark right next to you, ready to attack at any second. Just such a frightening moment was caught on camera by a drone in March of last year. A 2-meter-long shark swam a few meters from an unsuspecting surfer who was training near the Australian beach of Maroubra on the outskirts of Sydney. The footage shows the shark coming dangerously close to the surfer, who was lying on his board and trying to catch a wave. Luckily for the Australian, at some point the predatory fish abruptly changed direction and swam away in the opposite direction from him. The cameraman had difficulty identifying the species of shark, but judging by the silhouette, it was either a great white shark or a bull shark. Both of these species are extremely dangerous to humans and can be the first to show aggression. It's not uncommon for them to attack surfers because they mistake the silhouette of the board for the outlines of sea animals, so we can safely say that the diver was very lucky. Moray eel. The mouth of the moray eel contains many bacteria which, when bitten, immediately enter the wound. Considering that moray eels usually bite several times in a row, these fish begin to seem even more unpleasant and creepier. And while they don't attack people as often, sometimes unpleasant encounters do occur. For example, in 2018, there was an unpleasant incident in the Sandwana Bay in South Africa. A young diver from Poland was diving to see a coral reef when he encountered 2 moray eels. The creepy fish began chasing the diver, and one of them, that had been watching him for a long time, opened its mouth wide and attacked. It's unclear why exactly this happened, but the important thing is that the diver eventually managed to get away from the furious creatures. Out of the water. Another dangerous fish is the barracuda. I think everyone's heard of it. These toothy monsters are not creatures you want to be friends with while in the water. In murky water, barracudas often attack people, mistaking the swimmer's moving legs and arms for fish, their prey. But even being on the shore or on a boat, you're not safe from encountering with these monsters. This amazing and at the same time frightening video was filmed several years ago. Kevin Favre and Brad Deckard were fishing off the coast of Florida. Kevin got something jumped at the bait. He struggled to get his catch and drag it back to the boat, but instead a barracuda jumped into the boat. The fish torpedoed out of the water and over the side, where it immediately began beating for lack of oxygen. This would have been very hard to believe if Brad hadn't filmed it. Fortunately, the fishermen weren't hurt. The barracuda did not snag or attack them on the boat. Neither was the predatory fish injured. Soon the fishermen finished filming, carefully picked up the fish, and returned it to the sea. By the way, as the fishermen said later, the barracuda weighed 18 to 20 kilograms. They were lucky that such a giant fish didn't fly into the head of one of the fishermen. Giant jellyfish. The deeper you dive into the ocean, the creepier the creatures you may encounter. In July 2019, divers managed to capture photos and video of a jellyfish of unbelievable size. Underwater filmmaker Dan Abbott and biologist Lizzie Daly were diving off the coast of Cornwall when a giant jellyfish with tentacles emerged from the murky waters. According to biologists, the explorers of the sea were in front of a giant barrel jellyfish. At birth, it's only a few millimeters long, but over time it grows to 2 meters in length and can weigh up to 35 kilograms. It's noteworthy that at the same time, these jellyfish are not dangerous to humans. Supposedly, the huge jellyfish found by divers washed ashore in the fall of 2019. Lost in the cave. In this footage, we see a group of diving tourists who are lost in an underwater cave near the Egyptian resort of Hurghada. Nothing particularly scary happens in the video, but it's very creepy to watch people slowly panic and realize the extent of the problem. The fact is that not all novice divers follow the golden set of rules for visiting underwater caves. Professionals know that it's necessary to save at least 2/3 of oxygen to return to the surface, to move only with an experienced guide, as well as to take at least 3 lanterns. It's equally important to get the appropriate physical and mental training. So if you're offered a difficult and dangerous underwater route, think twice. Everything's relative. Sometimes diving into small, confined spaces is much scarier than diving into the depths of the ocean. And an inanimate object at times can be much creepier than any living creature. Unexpected encounter. Can one who likes to dive from a height be considered a diver? In a way, they can. I want to show you some creepy footage the guy took with his GoPro camera. The landmark jump was filmed back in 2014. Going to show off in front of his friends, the guy had no idea what he would encounter in the depths. Just look at the creepiness waiting for him at the surface. No wonder the guy instantly panics and tries to get to shore at all costs. He's lucky that the exit from the water is relatively sloping and comfortable. If he'd run into the cliffs, the video could have ended differently. Koya is a small island in Indonesia. Thanks to the warm and clear water, thousands of vacationers, and of course divers, come here every year. Diving off the coast of the island, these tourists stumbled upon an incredible picture. At the bottom of the sea, they found the cages in which were locked quite rare marine animals, dugongs. The adults were not only caged, but also chained. As it turned out later, this way the local fishermen decided to earn extra money, showing tourists the rare animals. The divers were shocked. They set out to find the cruel fishermen, and one of the participants soon got lucky. He was able to contact the owner of the cages and paid him money, so the owner showed him the animals. The fisherman took him to the cages and even let him inside, allowing him to take pictures. After receiving evidence of the crime, the diver asked the fisherman to release the animals. The fisherman agreed, but only for the sheer sake of appearance. To call for help from the international community, the video of the poor animals had to be posted on the internet. It worked. In a couple of days, local activists achieved their goal and released the dugong, 100 to 1,500 meters. Because of its primitive traits, the cloak-frilled is rightfully called a living fossil. This species of shark swallows its prey whole. The teeth of the fish are like needles. They curve inside the mouth and are not designed to crush or pulverize food, but they're excellent at holding slippery prey. Scientists believe that the size of this fish is not that big. However, everything becomes clear in comparison. Females grow up to 2 meters, and males are a little smaller. Their size ranges from about 1.3 meters. Not bad if you're just a diver and the shark is hungry. Statue of Jesus. Among divers, this strange find has become known as the Christ of the Abyss. The statue of Jesus, with his arms outstretched upward, was discovered near the shores of the U.S. state of Florida. Local historians say that it was thrown into the ocean in 1965 and was dedicated to the memory of a diver from Miami by the name of Michael Kavorian. By the way, this memorial statue on the ocean floor is not the only one. The established name, Christ of the Abyss, was first given to the sculpture located at the bottom of the sea in the waters of the Italian Riviera. The statue, about 2.5 meters high, was installed on August 22, 1954, at a depth of 17 meters to commemorate Dario Gonzaga, who drowned there. In addition, in different parts of the world, there are several similar statues, also bearing the name Christ of the Abyss. It's a very original idea, but it's difficult to imagine the emotions of a diver who will come across such a figure at a depth of 15 meters, unaware of the tradition of the commemorative statues. One of Oregon's major rivers. They were originally diving to find a sunken propeller from a boat, but at the very bottom of the river they stumbled upon a car. At a depth of 6 meters, there was a red pickup truck. The divers caught it on camera and immediately went to the police. During the investigation, it turned out that the pickup belonged to an 80-year-old man who'd been missing since August 1993. The man's acquaintances and relatives told police at the time that there'd been a major storm the night he went missing. It turned out that the car fell into the river because of bad weather. An inspection of the interior confirmed that the man could not get out of the car. That's how the search for the propeller unexpectedly helped to solve a 26-year-old case.